This is James Brierton in Charlotte. It's Friday, September the 27th, 2024. We are getting our first look at the devastation left behind by Helene. This is going to be a conversational update with you. We're still, frankly, trying to learn exactly what is happening at this hour and what has happened today across portions of the Carolinas, in particular, the western North Carolina mountains, where communication is still very sparse. We'll show you what we can so far from devastating flooding brought on by Helene across the mountains and elsewhere across the Carolinas. We also know many of you still sitting in the dark tonight, waiting for the power to be restored because of those damaging wind gusts, upwards of Category 1 hurricane force at times, as the center of circulation from Helene came right over Augusta, Georgia during the overnight hours and really brought the worst of this on the dirty side of the storm to North Carolina and South Carolina. Let's take a look here at some video we got in from our friends at Resort Cams. This was in Boone, where, as you can see, King Street, a very popular tourist destination, became a bit of a waterfall as water came rushing down the street at about 9:30 this morning. For those of you watching along with me on YouTube and on Facebook, you can see that parked car, that pickup truck right there in the center of the screen, and the water flowing right up to about halfway up those tires. And as other vehicles came up and down the street, that created wakes. Yeah, just like boats, but with cars that sent water into businesses. And that was really quite the devastating and rare flood for Boone. Again, like many places, still waiting to learn the exact extent of the damage that was caused by this event and so many others. Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich at WCNC Charlotte summing it up with this tweet saying, "I'm not going to sugarcoat this, but this is a catastrophic mountain event right now. There's flash flooding emergencies in effect, landslides, floods, dam failures, washed out homes, bridges, they're everywhere. We don't even know how bad it is in spots since all the communication and most power are out. Please pray for these people and help in any way we can." Brad sharing a picture of the flash flood emergencies that stretched all along the mountains and into upstate South Carolina today. Let's go ahead now and show you some of what we have, and we will continue to keep you updated on our YouTube channel and audio podcast feed. Another post here from Brad showing the highway signs. Again, a summarization of the event in one image. All roads closed in western North Carolina. No joke indeed. Take a look at this drone video that our own Dan Whitaker shot. Dan, as you might recall from our earlier live coverage, is a storm chaser based here in North Carolina. He rented an Airbnb in Asheville. We didn't hear from him for most of the day because, like so many of you, he did not have communication. You can see here a street flooded out. The shot right before this, the first floor of a home, halfway up the water. This man standing waist deep in the floodwaters. I don't know why. We don't recommend it, but you can see a devastating loss here to this structure and so many structures across western North Carolina. These are just snapshots of what many folks are facing. Scenes from the flooding disaster in western North Carolina, south of Asheville, he writes, near the Brevard and Mills River. Locals are shocked, are his words. The entire area is a navigational mess. Barely any cell service and no power anywhere. Other pictures from Dan, again, reiterating what we just saw. That man waist deep up in water looks like he's maybe taking a picture. Please, folks, don't go in floodwaters. This is not where you're supposed to be. You don't know what's in there. Waist down electric wires, not the place to be. And so many washed out roads and landslides. This is the reason why it would be virtually impossible to read off a list of all of the road closures. This is also the reason why all of those roads in western North Carolina are closed, because now that darkness has descended upon us, seeing something like this while you're traveling would be very difficult and very devastating if you didn't see it. Evan Fisher showing us, I think this is a view near his home in Asheville, Blue Ridge, Black Mountain. Take a look at this extremely fast river flow spilling over its banks, producing quite the current, and again, coming very close to numerous structures. The North Carolina Department of Transportation sharing this picture of what looks like a river, but really that is Interstate 40 near its intersection with US 74, taken from the Blue Ridge Parkway Bridge, or actually rather looking down towards the Blue Ridge Parkway Bridge, but one way or the other. That's not a river. That's supposed to be an interstate. The interstate, nowhere to be seen. Again, I-40 amongst those many roads closed. Ethan Clark sharing this video from a friend at App State showing you the impacts of a flash flood. Watch here as the water comes flowing down this parking lot, picking up not only trash cans and a dumpster, but watch those cars sliding together. It does not take much to move vehicles. They float like boats, unfortunately, when water starts flowing. And this is why they want people to flee from rushing water and not be out on the roads. I-40, the gorge here, Haywood County, North Carolina, as you approach that Tennessee border, the interstate literally washed away from rapids of the river down below. Damage like this is going to take weeks to repair. More pictures now, this time from Lake Lure. The Flowering Bridge appears to be gone, as so much of Lake Lure here in these initial images showing extensive destruction, debris flow that came down the river into Lake Lure. The Lake Lure Dam imminently set to breach throughout much of the day. Many residents in Rutherford County and neighboring Cleveland County along the Broad River quickly evacuated today as officials were concerned about the integrity of the Lake Lure Dam. As of this recording at 9:30 p.m. on Friday night, the dam is still there, but water has been and continues to flow over the top of it, allowing the Broad River in several places to set new record heights. And unfortunately, that is not unique to that river. Take a look here at Falls Park in Greenville, South Carolina from Jack Kendrick. Yeah, you know the tourist attraction there in downtown Greenville, the nice quaint waterfall. Yeah, looking more again like Niagara Falls and Rapids here because of the intense amount of water that has been flowing. And lastly, video from Virginia State Police, just to show you this is not exclusively a Carolina problem, a problem stretching all along the Southeast after Helene's Category 4 devastating landfall in Florida less than 24 hours ago. The rain is what this event is going to be remembered for, not only for what Helene brought, but for that predecessor rain event before that, that really set up the destruction that we are seeing. Amounts as low as 1 to 2, 3 inches of rain across much of eastern, central, North Carolina, even where I am here in Charlotte, about 2.5, 3 inches. But very quickly, those numbers climb to 10, 11, 12, upwards of 17 inches of rain, according to the Upper Mountain Research Station here. This looks like it's just outside Watauga County, closer to Asheville. Could this be true? Mount Mitchell State Park, 23 inches of rain, according to the North Carolina Climate Office's EcoNet. This over the course of the last 72 hours. 15.44, just another one of those staggering numbers. Frying Pan Mountain, 16 inches. And that is why we are seeing those pictures that you just saw across portions of the Carolinas tonight, is because of those devastating rainfall amounts. It's, again, just like we saw in Boone when the water started flowing down the streets because of the excessive rainfall brought on not only by Helene, but by that predecessor rain event that just left the water with nowhere to go. Taking a look right now, as we approach the 10 o'clock hour on Friday, as most of the rain has tapered off, we're looking at what is happening along so many of those rivers, creeks, and streams. Here's a picture of Cove Creek gauge just downstream of Lake Lure. You can see cresting at a new record high of 24.81 feet today. The Broad River outside of Boiling Springs, North Carolina, still at a high of about 20 feet. Shy of a record, but certainly in flood stage. Of course, this is a scene that is playing out across so much of the mountains. You can even see here the French Broad near Hot Springs at a high of about 20 feet, just shy of its record. The concern now is, where does all this water go that it's in the mountains? Well, it's going to flow down into one of several river basins. And let's follow the path, if you will, along the Catawba River Basin. And we'll start here near McDowell County at Lake James, where right now the Catawba River at Bridgewater Dam is at major flood stage. Again, surpassing a record, what was 107, cresting today at 110. That water flowing down the Catawba River outside of Granite Falls, surpassing a record there of 107 at 108 and counting. The water continuing to flow down the Catawba River. Here now between Conover and Statesville, we're looking at a gauge that's near Lookout Shoals, just off of I-40. A little shy of a record. We're at 108, but more water is going to continue to flow down the river towards this gauge and impacts even in metropolitan areas like Charlotte. All of that water flowing down the Catawba River, more yet to come into Lake Norman. And that's why we have evacuations in portions of Mecklenburg and Gaston counties, because Duke Energy opening the floodgates, coming out of Lake Norman, trying to pass as much water as they can through the Catawba River down to Lake Wylie and beyond. And here in Mountain Island Lake, we have right now rising water just shy of 105 feet, a little shy of a record of 109, and water is continuing to rise. Charmec Emergency Management telling people to get out of their homes this evening if you live along the Catawba River between Lake Norman and Lake Wylie. Because as we head into the overnight hours, more and more water is going to be released, and this value is going to continue to go up and up. By morning, I will be curious to see whether or not we have set a new record for the Catawba River at the Mountain Island Dam. And as we continue through the weekend in the days ahead, the Catawba River, the PD River, all of the paths leading out to the Atlantic Ocean. This water has to get out to the Atlantic Ocean, and it's going to be passing through places like Horry County, South Carolina, no stranger to flooding. And so we will watch as all of this water makes its way out of the mountains, through the Carolinas, and out to the ocean. So many of you finding us here at the Carolina Weather Group for the first time during this event. We wish it was during a better event, but we're glad you're here now. We are a weekly weather show talking about science, technology, and weather from the Carolinas and beyond, with new episodes every Wednesday. And of course, as you can see, severe weather updates as often and as frequently as we can. So many of us here at the Carolina Weather Group have other day jobs that we do outside the Carolina Weather Group, many of those jobs related to or in weather. Many of us working in TV. That's where some of us were today, and that's where some of us, again, will be tomorrow. And so this is just a brief snapshot with you on this Friday of what we've seen. And I would encourage you to stay with us. We'll continue to follow the impacts. We'll continue to recap what we've seen. And I'm sure next Wednesday, bring together a full roundtable of meteorologists from across the Carolinas to reflect on what is obviously a historic flooding event here in the Carolinas. Another H-name storm leaving an impact on the Carolinas. For now, I'm James Brierton in Charlotte. Wherever you're watching or listening from, I hope you're safe. And we will continue to follow the aftermath of Helene here in the Carolinas from the Carolinas.